Hello, Lorcana YouTube community and all my fellow Sapphire and Steel players. This past weekend, I attended my first Set 7 Store Championship hosted by the Stronghold Games located in Donna, Texas. We had 21 players come out, and it was actually a case tournament as well. I was able to take it down with this deck list right here on the screen, Popsicle Birds. I just want to say shout out JakxShadows and Harlan for actually creating the archetype Kiwi Birds within Sapphire and Steel. This archetype is an aggro approach that abuses Doc and has a very strong resist package with Cogsworth, and then having Alice as a ward character. This whole deck is just very strong into a Steel Amethyst meta. I'm going to have all my matchups down in the comments below, so you can go ahead and check that out. Let me know what you guys think of the deck list with the comment down below. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the deck profile. And if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow a lot. Alright, to start off the deck list, we have 2 copies of Captain Hook. Captain Hook pairs really well with Mr. Smee, and I think in an Amethyst field, he's just really strong, being able to trade with characters that have 3 willpower. Followed by Captain Hook, we have 2 copies of Happy. Happy is for evasives. It's also a Diablo killer. I hate having to answer Diablo, so I think Happy fits really well into this deck. And these 4 cards here were really clutch when you needed them to be. And even if they're not serving the purpose that you originally had them in for, having a 1-drop on curve, being able to build Strength of the Raging Fire or to gain a lore is pretty good. For our 2 drops, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Calhoun. Calhoun, very good into an Amethyst field, just like Captain Hook. And what I do like about Calhoun's effect, other than it having resist, which is really good against steel, is when it destroys something in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. And in a deck where lore matters, on the draw, being able to fight back and get the lore, not losing tempo there, is really good. The draw engine for the deck, or at least one of the draw engines, we have 3 copies of Doc. So why am I not playing 4 dogs? Well, because when I was building this list, I only own 3 copies. But now I do. I have that coming in the mail as well. I think Dog is super, super good. I think in Amethyst Steel, it's crazy how you can bounce Dog back with Madam Snake or Madam Fox and be able to abuse him like that. In this deck, playing on curve, emptying out your hand, playing that dock out, super good. I play a 4th one. To finish off the 2-drop slot, we have 4 copies of Mr. Smee. Mr. Smee is the best 2-drop in the game. It's inkable, quest for 2, and if you have Captain Hook, he does not put a damage on himself at the end of the turn, because if you don't have a pirate on the board, then he does take a damage. I think this on curve against your Ruby decks is super important because you need to be able to get as much as that early lore as possible. For our first 3 drops, we're playing 3 copies of John Silver. John Silver is also a pirate, so he does combo with Mr. Smee. If you go on curve Smee onto John Silver, prevent something from attacking with his on-play effect, your Smee gets to quest another turn and doesn't take damage. I think John Silver is really good against Amethyst decks as well. When they try to set up a 1-drop and they want to boost it up with the Merlin Crab, John Silver can stop those trades. Or even against decks that don't have that bounce rush package, it's super strong because you can prevent your 1 and 2-drop characters from not getting attacked. And this allows you again to enable a Strength of the Raging Fire for protecting those bodies early on. And this is going to be your first singer that can sing that card. We have the awesome Alice, 3 copies of Alice. This is what makes Kiwi Birds so special, is because when she quests, she can give something ward plus 1 lore. This card right here against Steel is just crazy good. Outside of Amethyst though, because again, or Rush in general, being able to attack into Alice is rough, but her 1/4 stat line against Steel decks, for example, Green Steel or Steel Song, it's really hard to get over her. And the fact that she has ward, you can't target her. You're forced into this challenge phase, and a card like John Silver, which can prevent that, followed by Alice, which I'll get into a bit. Another card, Pluto, which gives bodyguard, which has bodyguard. If you can protect your Alice against these steel decks, again, that's not the bounce or has rush. She's just gonna stay on the board, and that's how you aggro out with that amount of lore. I think you can play 4 copies of Alice, no issue. Me personally, I think 3 is just fine. Followed by Alice, we're playing probably one of the best cards in the format, Pete. In a steel format, shutting down song, shutting down action cards, super crucial. Against a lot of decks, you can curve out, play Pete, protect your board, and then sing Strength of the Raging Fire. And a very important card a key card in this deck. And against Ruby, to stop Be Prepared, stop Mari Sharks, Pete is very important. All right, we got the spicy 4 copies of Belle. Before the Hiram ban, Belle was just super cracked, right? You can play her for free if you have a Popsicle on board. Popsicle draws you a card, and then she can sing cards on turn 2. On the play, on the draw, this card is insane. If you do open up her and a Popsicle in your hand, you don't even need the song sometimes, just because having that 3/3 stat line is insane. For our first 4 drops, we're playing 2 copies of Scrooge and McDuck. I like them just for that 5/5 stat line, just in case I had to put something on the board and challenge when you're on the draw. He's just very good. Anything that trades with him usually gets traded with him, like a Maui, for example. Very good card, but this is going to be a huge flex spot. So if we didn't want to play this card, I wouldn't blame you. You can swap it out, preferably for some Inkables. 4 copies of Pluto. Pluto has Bodyguard, 5/5 a stat line, but if he has damage on him, his attack goes down to 1. So this card, when you pair it with Alice and, for example, against Steel Song, Green Steel, when Alice quests and you give Pluto ward, they're never going to be able to break through that defense line. Your Pluto's going to have ward. The 5/5 stat line is crazy. And Alice having ward, that combo is how you win against those steel type decks. Against your Amethyst decks, he's also very important to stop Madam Mins from crashing into your Alice, and he can also take one out. So you usually do 2-for-1s against Amethyst decks. I love Pluto. This card is awesome. One of my favorite cards in the deck. For our first 5 drop, we're playing 2 copies of Baymax. Baymax on play effect is you can heal up to 2 damage on a character, and for every damage healed, you gain 1 lore. So he's really awesome with Pluto, with Mr. Smee. In this steel meta, with any damage lingering on your side of the board, you can play Baymax and gain 2 lore, and then he quests for 2. So he's a potential for lore gainer, which is really good in the when you're already trying to close out the game in the mid to late game. He is also a flex spot. You can take him out for other 5-drop characters. His effect and the scenarios which he comes up with is pretty niche, but he did come up at least once or twice and won me some games. But he would be another card that you could cut out, and I might cut out in the future. We have the best card in the deck for this, which makes the deck work the way it does, is 4 copies of Cogsworth. So Cogsworth, you being able to curve out and put bodies on board, once you get to Cogsworth out, depending if you're on the draw and how you're playing it, because in a lot of cases when you're on the play, you go aggro, right? You go very fast and you just quest out. When you're on the draw, you kind of have to challenge more, play a little bit slower, play for more singing Strength of the Raging Fires plays. Once you get to Cogsworth out, giving resist 1 to everything on your board, you can trade more efficiently, and you can start actually turning sideways and not worry about your opponent trading into your characters. To close out our 5 drops, we're playing 4 copies of the big boy Gondu. He is our win condition, one of our win conditions, one way to close out the game fast, especially into Ruby Sapphire or Ruby Amethyst decks. More so Ruby Sapphire, because Elsa tapping this feels pretty bad, so you have to be careful with that. But him gaining 4 lore, if you can curve out with Alice and protect the Gondu, giving it ward, and you need just that 4 lore, like you can win a lot of games like that. And I did win one game like that, protecting the Gondu with Alice. I think you absolutely need this card against Ruby Sapphire, specifically just because you need to close out the game fast once they start controlling the board and things get out of control. For our last 2 characters in the deck, we're playing 2 copies of Tamatoa. If you're playing Pawpsicle, you gotta play Tamatoa. The fact that you can use these Pawpsicles early, draw a card, destroy it, bring out Belle for free, and then in the mid game, play Tamatoa, grab back 2 Pawpsicles, because remember, in this deck, you're curving out and you're emptying your hand. If you can refill your hand with 2 Pawpsicles, play those cards, and just get more characters on the board to close out the game, that's very strong. So in this deck list in particular, you have 2 different type of draw engines. You have the dock, and you have the Tamatoa package. I think Tamatoa pairs really well with Belle. There's an argument to be made where do you even need to run Tamatoa if you're playing the Belle and Pawpsicles? If you did want to cut one, I think cutting one is just fine. He did come up at least 2 games, and I think against Ruby Sapphire, he is also very good. Just in those grindy games when you're on the draw and you need to keep refilling your hand, he comes in clutch. So for our action cards, and this is going to be our only removal in the deck, we're playing 2 copies of Fire the Cannon and 4 copies of Strength of the Raging Fire. So Fire the Cannon is really good to stop Robin Hood shift lines or any Diablos. It's really only bad against the 1 inkable cost character, and Diablo and Amethyst that replaces itself when it's destroyed. Other than that, this card is good against every other one drop. You have Cinderella, Merfolk, Robin Hood Shift Lines, opposing one drop, questable characters. Super awesome card. You could replace these with Let the Storm the Rage on since you're playing Belle. Uh, Honestly, either or, whichever you prefer. The Fire of the Cannons are only bad into Ruby Sapphire, and so is Let the Storm the Rage on. So it's pretty much the same thing. But if you want to play Let the Storm the Rage on, I wouldn't blame you. It's technically a better card than Fire of the Cannons. And then Strength of the Raging Fire, since you're curving out and you're playing characters every turn. On turn 4, being able to sing this card on the play or on the draw to remove an opposing character is just a huge tempo gain. And this card is probably the top five, one of the top 3 of top 5 cards of most broken removal cards in the game. I wouldn't play any less copies than 4. We're playing 4 copies of Pawpsicle. If you're gonna play Belle, you have to play Pawpsicle. I'm glad that they didn't hit Pawpsicle. It's a way better card than Fortisphere. Being able to heal, the healing effect comes up a lot. Being able to draw one turn 1 playing Belle is super good. It's a huge tempo game being on the draw. I love this card. If you didn't want to play it and play the Robin Hood package or something that is just less RNG focused, I wouldn't blame you. To finish off the deck, we're playing 4 copies of McDuck Manor. These are going to be our location game-winning card against Ruby decks, because when you do get Be Prepared, if you slam this down the turn before, it's just going to gain you that lore that you need. It's also very good against Emerald Steel early on or the late game, as well as Steel Song. It just doesn't do that much against Amethyst decks, just because they have, again, Merlin Crab, Merlin Fox. But other than that, this card wins me a lot of games, especially in my Ruby matchups. This card was MVP in my top 8 match and my top 4 match. It came up exactly when I needed it. The turn before I was going to get Be Prepared, and it won me the game. My closing thoughts is I think Popsicle Birds, Kiwi Birds is very well positioned in the current meta. If you expect a lot of Emerald, Amber, Steel, Amethyst decks, I would highly suggest picking this up. You just get to curve out, drop dock, and refill your hand. Your only bad matchup is Ruby Sapphire. You have to just get as much as early lore as possible in that matchup, hold on to your Peats, and make manners. That's it for the deck profile. Let me know what you guys think of the deck list down below in the comments. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit that sub button.